On the first day of January, in the year of your Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves shall be then, thenceforth, and forever free. These words, taken from the Emancipation Proclamation, did not free all slaves, but they did forever change a nation. The preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, written on September 22, 1862, by Abraham Lincoln, stated that 4 months after this document became effective, that all slaves in the rebellious states will become free. It may be somewhat difficult to understand the significance of this document in a society where the first president of the United States to be a descendant of an African father was just elected to his second term. But it is arguable that the opportunities available in modern-day society would not have been made possible as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation. The preliminary document declared that all Southern states in rebellion against the Union would be forced to free its slaves if not done so voluntarily. Although Lincoln's efforts have been classified as a war tactic against the states in rebellion, Lincoln's life and interaction with freed blacks illustrate that his intention was in fact to free enslaved people in those states. For example, his interaction with the servants in his own house, William Slade and Elizabeth Keckley, show that he was sympathetic to abolitionists, although he did not consider himself one. Slade, a servant in the Lincoln household, has been described as more akin to a friend. While Keckley was a seamstress for Mrs. Lincoln, she had been described as having celebrity status within the colored community. Both people having much interaction with Lincoln and carrying on respectful relationships with him. Lincoln wrote the preliminary proclamation the summer of 1862. However, he hesitated to publish it due to Union defeats in the Civil War. In September, the Union gained a great victory in the Battle of Antietam, which gave Lincoln the assurance to issue the document. It's unclear why Lincoln decided to issue the proclamation only to the states in rebellion, but it is likely that it would have been a less effective war tactic otherwise. In 1861, Lincoln proposed a plan to pay slaveholders if they would free their slaves. This plan, made to a Delaware congressman, was part of a larger plan he had to free slaves in other borderline states, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri, and eventually the entire Confederacy. Although his plan didn't come to fruition, the Emancipation Proclamation did. When this document was executed, it changed the Civil War from a war on secession to being framed as a war on slavery. The preliminary proclamation focuses on an act of Congress entitled An Act to Make an Additional Article of War, approved March 13, 1862. The act restrains military persons from returning fugitive slaves for the purpose of regaining their slave status. It also cites an act to make an additional article of war, approved March 13, 1862, stating that no slave entering into Union territory shall be returned. The document has gone down in history as a treasured artifact. This year, an exhibit was set up in Harlem alongside handwritten and typewritten speeches given by civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr., acknowledging that the descendants of slaves were still waiting on civil rights, and the government could be an influence similar to Lincoln. Slavery was not formally abolished until the 13th Amendment was enacted in 1865, 2 years after this proclamation went into effect. My name is Vanna Shaw, and I am a law student at Regent University School of Law to graduate in 2013.